Welcome to another episode of Upper Cervical Chiropractic Clinical Case Reviews with your host, Dr. Chris Brown. Today, I'll be going through a case of right shoulder pain. That's about it, and how the upper cervical spine is related to the shoulder complex and how we were able to help get this patient well and get his body on the course towards healing. This guy that came to me, he was a unique case for me in that he was out of town. And so he had moved from Georgia at the time, he was under upper cervical chiropractic care there, and he moved towards northern Arkansas, and he hadn't seen a doc in a while, and he started getting this right shoulder issue that he couldn't really clear out. It seemed more structural in nature. It seemed more so like his AC joint, kind of like the top of his shoulder, but it kind of also went up his, this is your trap, but kind of bottom of your neck-ish. It kind of went up like that. It was like an aching pain that he couldn't really get rid of, and it was bugging him when he was sleeping, and especially when he tried doing anything overhead, like reaching up overhead, trying to put something on a shelf. Being in this kind of position really irritated him. And so he had done his research on Google, found the specific chiropractic centers on Google, and gave us a call. And we were able to get him in, and he was traveling from a few hours away. So him being under upper cervical prior, him coming from a while away, I was able to get him in. Our step-by-step process is, number one, want to find out how the nervous system is functioning. We do our functional nervous system test here in the clinic, which is called computerized infrared thermography, able to give us insight on how well someone's system is functioning. If someone's system is not functioning, that tells us that their body's ability to effectively heal itself is compromised because of an interference of brain to body communication, which commonly, time and time again, is due to a misalignment of either the first or the second bone of the neck. So when we were able to run those scans, we did confirm that there was interference of his nervous system. It was not functioning to his best capabilities. There was some interference going on. And that's really like when I hear stuff that your body hasn't been able to heal up, that consistently indicates to me that this person's nervous system is not in a good state, because our body is designed to consistently heal itself day in and day out. It's always working towards that. And if that is not being expressed symptomatically, then there's something holding that up. And we want to be able to figure that out. And the nervous system is the root that makes everything work. Nothing in our body would be able to function without electricity. And so that's where checking the nervous system and evaluating the function of our central nervous system, which is the chief commander. He's the orchestrator behind all the players in his ensemble. We want to check and verify that that guy is good, that the fuse box of the human body is operating correctly, which is what these two bones protect. That fuse box is our brainstem. And when we found out that on his scan he had a dysfunctional nervous system, that confirms to us doctors that there's a misalignment of either the first or the second bone of the neck. Now, how do we figure out what that is? That's through our exam process, particularly through x-rays, where we take motion x-rays that allows us to be able to actually see how these bones are moving. And there we're able to make a decision on, okay, now we know how these bones are moving, and in particular, how they're moving incorrectly. So in his case, so to backtrack real quick, we got two bones. It's just four joints we're evaluating. These two joints right here, which kind of sit like this, and then these two top joints right here, which is where our skull rests on. So if my fist is my brain and my thumb is my brain stem, and they sit in like so, like this. I'm trying to get my hand out of the way. Sit like that. Or if I'm like this might be a little bit better. Brain, thumb, brain stem. That's how it looks. And with this individual's particular misalignment, he had a rotation of his top right bone was not moving from right to left. It was not translating this way, which occurs when we tilt our head to the left. So when I tilt my head to the left, my top bone should go from right to left. And when I tilt my head to the left, my second bone should go from left to right. It should go like this. So With this individual, his top bone was not going from right to left, and it was rotated backwards, kind of like that, while his second bone was not rotating in either direction. It was just stuck, essentially, and it also wasn't moving from right to left. More so, it was kind of rotated like this. So basically, he had this kind of a complex going on, which is essentially almost your brainstem getting Indian burned, because one bone's going this way, the other bone's going that way, and it's just torsioning your brainstem because it has ligaments. The only area that the brainstem has like connective tissue attachment to this interior part right here called the spinal canal is through dentate ligaments that are in like that line the interior of the hole in our skull called our foramen magnum, and then also on just these first, second, third bones. So when they rotate, we're actually torsioning that upper part, which is where all the command centers of our entire body is located. So it can cause a pretty detrimental effect for a lot of people, especially the ones that aren't necessarily doing the best like at-home care for themselves in the long run. So for this individual, all of our shoulder muscles back in here, our trap, our shoulder, they all originate from our neck, particularly our skull, C1, C2, C3. All of these neck muscles that come down here. So like our trap, our scalenes, levator scapulae, all of those originate up in here, and then they come down, and then they fan out over the top of the shoulder, over the back of the shoulder to the shoulder blade. And so if there's any rotation of these top bones, it's going to torque these muscles really on both sides. And it's super common for people to have neck pain that radiates down their neck and shoulder. They'll typically come in and say, I have shoulder pain, but then we'll find out, they say, oh, the shoulder pain, it travels up my neck. And oftentimes in our head, we're like, I don't think it's coming from your shoulder. I actually think that the root issue is from your neck, and you're just experiencing the consequences of that, the compensations in your shoulder. So with this individual, with his bones kind of going like this, going opposite of each other, they were torquing those muscles, which in effect torqued the end of those muscles downstream, as if I had like my car lanyard, and it's one continuous rope. So if I twist one way, what's downstream is also going to start twisting too. And then the end effect at the very bottom is something that's super torsioned up. So that was essentially what was happening to him in his trap, in his levator scapulae, and it was manifesting and kind of pulling on that shoulder joint, giving him that deep boring ache that he had. So in terms of what did we adjust? Did you adjust both those bones? How did you go about this? Well, what we do is, the technique is called knee, chest, upper cervical, and when we adjust, the adjustment is by hand, but it's on one bone, one joint. The adjustment itself, there's no movement of the head, there's no lateral flexion or twisting or cranking like that. It's all just rested on the table, turned towards the side that, in particular to your misalignment, and we are only adjusting just that one bone in itself. And so since his were rotated in that kind of going into each other like that, the rule of thumb is we want to take that top bone of the neck first and address that. And typically when that happens, the tiny, super tiny upper neck muscles will also allow for the second bone to start moving appropriately. So when we gave him his correction, he responded very favorably in the long run, because I didn't see him again for 9 months because he moved. He was out of town. I think he was in Montana for like 9 months. Like I said, this guy was a traveler. So he just came to us. He said, look, you guys are local or somewhat local, a few hours away. I'm leaving in a month and I want to get this addressed. Well, 9 months later, he comes back and wants to get scanned because he's in town, and his scan looks good. His scan was, about as good as we can get. And that was really cool for me, because I hadn't seen the guy in 9 months. I have no idea what his scans were like, but yet he was still holding his adjustment from 9 months ago. He had not seen a chiropractor since then. He knows like how to take care of himself. He's really good with his home health and his at-home care. But that was a really cool story for me because, I mean, till to this day, that's my longest hold of an adjustment is 9 months. So whatever I did on that first day for him, his body integrated it really well, and his body adapted it, and then his body was able to start healing itself effectively the way that it's supposed to. Then his shoulder started clearing up, and then he didn't have issues. He was a bow hunter. He was into archery, and he was able to do that. He was able to do that without limitation. So that was really awesome, a super awesome outcome. And that's kind of how the upper neck is associated with shoulder issues, really just because a lot of those muscles actually originate from the neck. They're not just local to the shoulder. So we want to really make sure that, we're trying to figure out what that root issue is. And when something has been going on for a long period of time that isn't responding to traditional medicine and care, typically the body is able to heal itself. So when it's not, and the things we're doing for it aren't working, more than often that will indicate to me that there's a underlying functional issue going on that is typically rooted in the nervous system, and the person just didn't know it. So if that sounds like you or somebody you know, please go find an upper cervical doc near you and just get your nervous system tested. It is the best thing that you can do for your health or your family's health and long-term well-being. It's absolutely worth it. It's a test that should be in every hospital, that should be being done on newborns right from the gate, and should be done on every single person that goes into triage, and that's in outpatient hospitals. I wish this thing was in hospitals, because it is, I think, one of the most important, if not the most important, health test that one can get. So with that, there's my right shoulder upper cervical case. How the heck is that connected to the neck? You just found out. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Dr. Chris Brown.